talking about the NFL Hall of Fame speeches, and all of a sudden I realized, hey, you know what? We're not on the air, but I see all you guys commenting on here. Everybody saying, good evening, good evening, good evening, like they're Phil Johnson on WWL getting ready to do an editorial. So I see it all. So yeah, we were just talking about the best and the worst speeches we ever heard on Hall of Fame weekend when these players get inducted in the Hall of Fame, and I can't really think of a bad speech. I can think of boring speeches, but we were talking about where Peyton Manning's speech ranks up there, and I was kind of reminiscing about when Tommy McDonald got his Hall of Fame induction. I don't remember the speech. What I do remember is him throwing his bust up in the air to have one more catch, and he almost dropped it. And that's back when they used to do it on the steps of the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you were talking. Bob was talking about Bradshaw's. I believe the year that Bradshaw went in the Hall of Fame, they still did it on the steps of the.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they've made such. And as I told you guys, I really hate that they put a time limit on the speeches. I don't think that's fair to those guys that have sacrificed and worked so hard for a lifetime to get to that point, and their career has to be encapsulated in a 6-minute thing. And I hate that.
That was Peyton's joke. In fact, here I got to give a 6-minute speech about a 14-year career, and Ray Lewis is still giving his speech from a few years ago.
Ray's was very, very long.
Yeah, but Ray Lewis was the kind of guy, whether you love him or hate him, when he spoke, it made you want to run through a wall for him.
Yes, yes. And it's listening to him give his speech, it was easy to see why or how he was the emotional leader of that team.
Yeah. I was talking about how much I enjoyed Bill Parcells' speech. I thought that still ranks up there as one of my all-time favorites. Bradshaw's speech. I remember him talking about
Mike Webster.
Mike Webster. I kept going Ray Mansfield. No, the guy who replaced Ray Mansfield, Mike Webster. Yeah. How that was just a perfect butt, and I like when he was talking about his game. He says, my game was attack, go deep. I get in the huddle. Oh, I can beat this guy 50 yards, go deep. I mean, that whole bit, that's Bradshaw.
I really enjoyed Troy Polamalu's speech and the way that he spoke about what it meant to be a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Yeah, those are the ones I really enjoy when you talk about the fans. They talk about the city, the team. When they personalize it, because so many of these guys, especially in the old days, they didn't put down roots in these cities.
Right.
That's where they lived 6 months out of the year or 5 months out of the year, because really the regular season was over with by mid-December. Back in the old days. These guys would go back to their hometowns or whatever and wouldn't show up again until August. So, to have these players, and now in free agency where you're moving back and forth, but to have these players talk about what it means to be a part of that team and be a part of that franchise, I should say, and the fans of that city, how much that affected them. That's really that's the part I really enjoy more so than I want to thank my high school teacher that didn't give up on me, or that kind of stuff. Although that's important, but it's like, I've heard this story before. It's like the ESPN profiles on draft day. How many?
They're all the same.
Yeah, how many of these kids grew up in a single parent household, a shack in the middle of some country town? I mean, come on,
Listen, guys. Hey, I try to put my own individual spin on these draft profiles, but I'm putting 30 and 40 out a year, so I do the best I can.
Whenever I worked for PFS, and I had to do like 3 or 4 draft profiles a week when it got to be that time of the year, and I began to notice. I just said this a week ago about somebody else.
Right.
There's only so you don't want to fill it up with filler to make it trivial. You want to get to the facts. He's got good speed. He's got a good takeoff and got great hands. Works well in space. That's what makes him a draft prospect. And there's 100 more just like him that are the same way. It's really, Bob, you do a very good job on everything that you write, but that's really, really a hard task to be able to take the same information and spread it out and make it sound. And I guess what I'm saying is make it interesting enough for people to like.
It is, and yeah, but both of you guys know this too because you did it, and that's why I have so much respect for guys like Mike Detillier, who devotes so much time to his draft guide and his draft prospect analysis. And I know you guys did this too. I legitimately watch film on the guys that I do draft profiles on. And it's it is a lot easier to do now than it was in the old days. I will grant you that, but it still takes time away from your family, your other obligations, other responsibilities. But I legitimately watch film on every player that I profile, and then some, because I usually, I usually have a notebook full, as we head into draft night, or as I do shows with you guys, or my own show, or everything like that. So that way, I'd like to think that I can intelligently talk about these guys and how they could potentially fit into the Saints system, or why they would fit, why they wouldn't fit. Again, these are just my own eyes doing this analysis, so it's it's subjective to a certain degree, but it is incredibly challenging, as the both of you know, to try to put a slightly different word spin on the same thing that you're saying about 5 different cornerback prospects or whatever the position may be.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, ESPN's just as lazy. I mean, there's no other way of putting it.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
It's lazy.
And and the NFL Network as well. And what's sad is just exactly how many people take that to be gospel and they're not willing to put the time in like the 3 of us have done over the course of a lifetime to learn this game and to develop our own opinions about these players or these teams or whatever. They want to sit back and have these talking heads tell them what to think, how to feel, and nobody from this generation, or well, I'm not going to say nobody, very, very, very few from this generation that we have now are willing to put in the work.
Well, it's something else too, that football is entertainment. And I promise we're going to talk about Michael Thomas and all the rest in a second, but football is entertainment. So they treat it like entertainment, and they feel like a draft show that's all about X's and O's and just talking about how this player fits and what he can do best and what he can't do well. That will turn off people who will watch the draft. They want to do the human interest stuff. Yeah. And that becomes, but it becomes the focus of the show. So every story is the sad story. The twin brothers that were both drafted by the Seahawks back in 2016, the one with no hand.
Yeah, Griffin's Shaq and Shaq.
Yeah. I actually said this. I was sitting in this room watching the draft. I'm like, I don't give a shit about these guys anymore. I've heard this story. I've been sitting here for 7 hours. I've heard this same story 5 times. I don't care. Life's tough. Move on.
Yeah.
I want to hear, meanwhile, I'm watching do, and there's the Saints making a pick. They're in the fifth round. I'm like, I'll be lucky if they even mention this dude's name, because the names are now going so fast. They're going to focus on somebody else. But meanwhile, I had to sit through for the fifth time the same damn story about Griffin and his missing hand. I'm like, enough. That was interesting the first time I saw it, but the fifth time I saw it, I don't care. I really don't care. And I talked to the TV, so you can imagine what I was saying.
That's not safe for work.
Yeah. So I'm not very much fun watching the draft. I've been watching the draft for a long time. The first NFL draft I ever watched was 1988 when the Saints drafted Ironhead Hayward, because ESPN had it on. I put it on Sunday. I was hungover, so I'm watching the thing, and actually no, it was a Saturday, because it was back then. It was Saturday and Sunday. Okay. So I watched the first round, and I knew a few of the players, but draft magazines didn't exist. Obviously, the internet didn't exist. I had newspaper clippings. That's what I had to go by on who the Saints should draft. And it was like the top 5 running backs, top 5 receivers and stuff. So once I got past the first round, I didn't know who the hell anybody was, unless I personally watched it. And back then, you got to see college football, but college football wasn't on, ESPN2, because I don't think that had been invented yet. There was no ESPN3 or ESPNU or any of that stuff. So you didn't get any kind of news. So
I can remember the first broadcast of ESPN.
Oh, I do too.
It was a softball game.
ESPN is how I discovered who Warren Moon was, because I used to play the old CFL games. Mm-hmm. So I watched Warren Moon, and I wanted the Saints to get Warren Moon back in 1984. We got Richard Todd instead. Bastard. So, and then I watched the old USFL games. Because ESPN.
Paul McGuire.
But I mean, ESPN used to show log throwing, or
World's Strongest Man competition.
Yeah, tree climbing. The guys who are racing up a tree, how fast they can climb a tree. That's
spelling bee and cornhole and.
They were during the quarantine. They were really strapped for content because nobody was doing anything, so they start broadcasting cornhole tournaments. And I'm going, really? This is what we're to? Okay.
It was. They're asking me. Everybody's asking me where I got this gold jersey from. I got it back in 2004. Or 2003, somewhere around there. Whenever they debuted this, it was 2002 was the first year they wore it. So 2003 was the first time I think they put these things out for sale. So that's how long I've had this Deuce jersey. But yeah, and then I watched when I used to go out in the bars all the time in college. They had the TVs up there, and they'd show ESPN. Mm-hmm. Late at night. Well, late at night, they started replaying old games and stuff. So, stuff they showed earlier in the day. And I watched the Japanese All-Stars versus like William and Mary College. And William and Mary just kicked the crap out of them. If they would have had a mercy rule, it would have ended in the first quarter. They would just turn off the scoreboard, the whole bit, because William and Mary College beat them like 75-0, because they had the size on them. There's no other way of putting it. And it was like watching a high school JV team go to a playground to play the 9 and 10-year-old team. It was that bad. I was like, you're proud of yourself. You're destroying this sport, and it's like whatever the Japanese used to call their dome stadium.
Tokyo Dome.
Is it the Tokyo Dome? I couldn't
remember.
Yeah.
The Saints did play in it back in 1992. They played in the American Bowl for a preseason game. out there, and yeah, that I do remember that because that's where they showed the footage of Lorenzo Neal going against a sumo wrestler to show how strong the man was, and he pushed the sumo wrestler out of the ring. He did. He because it's a circle, and you gotta once you push him out the circle, that's when you won. But that was his leverage. So yeah. So that's what I remember most about that particular game. So we've gone as usual way off track.
I'm looking back at the
yeah.
rail.
I know. Well, we start talking about the Hall of Fame, and then we go on, and I did bring it a little bit back to the Saints to talk about the Tokyo Dome and the American Bowl. So Michael Thomas. Everyone wants to know what's going on with this. This has got to be the strangest. This has got to be one of the strangest stories ever. And I've seen a lot of strange stories. This is not like cocaine Chuck Muncie, who I love Chuck Muncie, by the way, so I can say this. Where Hank Stram said, because he just disappeared from training camp one time, and Hank Stram said, they asked him, where's Muncie? How come hasn't been in practice? He says, all I know is he borrowed Rocky Thompson's car to go pick up some sundries, and evidently he picked up Vanishing Cream. So there's Thomas isn't doing coke. Thomas isn't doing, just
as far as we know.
As far as we know, he's on the bench. So, Bob, what the hell's going on here? To quote Vince Lombardi.
Damn. Sorry.
I go away to say a couple I do's and try to relax on the beach, and Michael Thomas has my phone blowing up the whole time. Not Michael Thomas personally, of course. Otherwise, I would have some answers for you guys. Let's recap the timeline. Very, very briefly. He had the worst statistical year of his brilliant 5-year career last year because he was limited to just 7 games, 9 if you count the 2 playoff appearances, because of that severe ankle injury that really had him at a shadow of his usual self when he was on the field. Many of us thought that he had a minor surgical procedure done right away in the offseason. That came out to not be the case, that he just rehabbed it. And then, of course, came the news of, what was that? I think 3 weeks ago, that he finally had that major ankle surgery done, but it wasn't until June. So now we're sitting here, and Michael Thomas is going to be scheduled to miss probably at least half the season while recovering and rehabbing from this injury. And then it comes out that he has not returned any of the team's phone calls, coaches, front office, coaching staff, anybody's phone calls or texts, all off season. So that's 4 months of complete silence by Michael Thomas. Our friend Jeff Duncan, of course, was the one who broke that official story, which caused Thomas to send out, may have caused Thomas to send out a very cryptic tweet that all of a sudden Saints social media accepted as Thomas wants to be traded.
Yeah.
Now, let's be fair. Sean Payton has made it very clear he is not happy with Michael Thomas and that he believes the surgery should have happened sooner. It is just as clear that Michael Thomas has not returned any of the coaching staff or front office's phone calls or texts in the last at least 4 months that we know of. Those are the only 2 things that are clear. New Orleans is not dangling Thomas as trade bait, at least officially speaking. They have not announced that they are fielding offers, and Thomas nor any of his camp has officially asked for a trade, regardless of how you want to twist his tweets. He has not, point blank. There's a huge, huge gray area now. We know Michael Thomas is a competitor. So people on social media that are saying he's just taking the money and running, stop. That's not the case. Because as soon as he signed this big contract, he only led the league in receiving yards and broke a 20-year-old receiving reception mark record. He played last year trying to give Drew Brees and his other teammates one last final chance at a ring for number 9. When Thomas really realistically should have had the surgery during the year last year. So I don't think anybody in their right mind can doubt Michael Thomas's competitive abilities or the fact that he is going to stay in shape. The fact that Michael Thomas is just complete silence here when he has the chance to defend himself, defend his position, or even go the opposite way and say, yeah, I don't want to have anything to do with New Orleans anymore. Take the diva attitude we're so used to seeing from today's athlete and demanding a trade. He's not done either of those. That's what's infuriating me is Michael Thomas's silence is absolutely deafening. But as far as any, CBS, Florio, Rappaport, saying Michael Thomas has asked for a trade, he has not. None of those outlets have any source of that information. Sean Payton isn't talking. Michael Thomas isn't talking. Michael Thomas's agent isn't talking. So any rumors of a Michael Thomas trade are no more than that. Closing your eyes and throwing a dart at a dartboard and hoping you hit. There's nothing concrete to any of this. This is what I know right now.
Would it not be asinine to even contemplate trying to move Thomas off this team?
I mean, there's a big, and I mean big is in Grand Canyon size salary cap hit that the Saints would have to take. And there's no choice. Even if a trading team is willing to take on all or even some of his contract, the Saints are still going to get hit with a huge amount of dead cap space because of the guaranteed sum that Thomas signed for back in 2019. Can you circumvent that? Absolutely. We've seen teams do it before. We've seen New Orleans do it before. But when you're talking about the best receiver in the National Football League while trying to break in a new quarterback, giving your quarterback as many weapons as possible, plus the salary cap hit that this team would already have to take, this is why I can't see the Saints moving Michael Thomas unless things got really, really ugly. And like the three of us were talking pre-show, this has the potential to get ugly, but it's not there yet. Definitely strange, but not ugly.
Yeah, I was just going to say there's about 32.6 million reasons why Michael Thomas can't be traded this year. That's going to be his dead cap hit this year, because what the Saints did, yes, they paid him $100 million a couple of years ago. But since then, they have restructured his contract twice to give themselves cap relief, both this year and the previous year. And the way they do that is they take that money, give it to the player as a signing bonus, and then they push the cap hit to the end of the cap deal. So all that money comes due right away. The Jimmy Graham situation, Jimmy Graham had just signed his deal, and they were in the first year of it. So there was no guaranteed money in there. They just had the signing bonus they had to count towards it. All that went to the front part of the deal when it was traded. That money just doesn't go away when you trade somebody. So the Saints would really destroy their cap by trading Michael Thomas this year and probably next year, because I think it's a $22.4 million hit in 2022. So you were looking at 2023 before they really can get a manageable cap hit, just because they've restructured that deal a couple of times. And like you said, the guaranteed money. So the Saints fans, y'all stuck with him. And I think Thomas knows this. Thomas and his agents probably know this. So it's like, what can they do to you if you choose not to? If he was going to go the diva route, I don't know enough about it to speculate about why Thomas has done what he's done. I think it's strange. I do believe he honestly believed he could rehab this ankle back to health. I don't think he did it to screw the Saints.
No. But at the same time, there has to be, if you're going to take that approach, there has to be that cutoff point when you say, okay, I have not made enough progress, and if I don't do it now, I'm going to miss part of the season. I think that the coaches are perfectly within their rights to be pissed off about this.
Oh, no, I'm not denying that at all.
No, I'm just saying. I think that the coaches are in the right as far as that goes, because you have put rightly or wrongly making this choice, you would put this team in a hell of a spot.
Yeah. No, and I think that's what they're more mad about is the silence. When they were trying to get updates and things on him and he's not saying a thing, they're mad they didn't have the opportunity to evaluate him and make the call on things.
Yes.
To tell him in March, hey, it doesn't look good. You better schedule surgery for April. And Thomas evidently didn't want to hear this. That's why maybe he went radio silence. I don't know.
My problem with the way that he handled this is based on that. He took it all on himself. He didn't listen. He ghosted the organization, and because of that, now we're screwed basically as far as a number one wide receiver.
Well, yeah.
somebody like a Marquez Callaway or a Traquan Smith or whoever is going to have to step up in a huge way on a stage that they've never been on before.
I certainly think that had the Saints stayed in contact with him, I don't know if they would necessarily have drafted somebody, but I think they would have approached the draft differently had they known that Thomas was going to be out, or at least free agency differently.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing about the Saints, and we should know this by now. The Saints aren't a team that spends a lot of draft capital on receivers. They never have.
Yeah.
I mean, the only first rounder they've ever spent on a receiver, two of them. They spent 2 first rounders on a receiver because I always forget about Brandon Cooks for some reason. But Brandon Cooks and, of course, Robert Meacham. And if you think about it, Meacham never really got out of the number 4 slot as a receiver, and Brandon Cooks ended up shipping off. So the rest of the receiving core, Marcus Colston was a 7th round pick. Lance Moore was an undrafted free agent. Now Devery Henderson they inherited from the previous regime, but you start looking at some of the other players they brought, even if they were busts. Nick Toon, I think, was a 4th round pick. Kenny Stills, 5th round pick. I'm hoping I get these right. Adrian Arrington was a 7th round pick. Quan Baker this year, 7th round pick. They're not going to go up there and go get a guy. Michael Thomas probably represents the 2nd highest receiver they've gone after outside of the 2 first rounders I mentioned. So they feel that they can get by with a certain kind of receiver that other teams may not really covet that much. And that's usually a big-bodied, precise route runner. That's what they like. Someone with solid hands that runs great routes. And it has a good physical body to come across the middle. And I think you see a little bit of that with Callaway. And I think that's how they're going to try and use him. And the speed guy, they feel like they can get away with not having necessarily a big speed demon, deep threat, but get a couple guys who can run fast and just run clear out routes and occasionally take the shot play.
But this year, though, the margin for error is so small because you're going to have one way or the other. You're going to have, well, I'll just say it for what it is. You're not going to have number 9 back there.
No.
We've talked endlessly about how Drew can take a grocery store clerk and make him look like an all-pro. You're not going to have that luxury anymore. Having Thomas would have gone a long way towards helping whoever the heir apparent is at quarterback.
Absolutely.
And that's what is so frustrating about it to me. You're going to have to go now with an unknown commodity.
You're going to be relying a lot on Callaway.
Yeah.
Along with Deontay Harris, who I'm still thinking is going to be in line for a big year. Traquan Smith, I beat that horse to death already. I've made my opinion very known. But irregardless of my opinion, he's going to be on the team. And if he's healthy, because he's hurt again, he's going to have to come up big. And they're going to need another one of these guys to come out. They're going to have to catch lightning in the bottle again. Whether it's Jalen McCleskey, Kewan Baker, Jawan Johnson is having a fantastic camp, but they moved him to predominantly to tight end, which I think is an interesting move, and going to benefit the offense if that move pays out or pays off. Little Jordan Humphrey is another one of those big guys that they're going to count on to be a more precise runner, route runner over the middle of the field. But like you guys just hit the nail on the head. You don't have that. That's such a huge gamble because you don't have number 9 anymore. The most accurate quarterback in NFL history, the best ball distributor in NFL history. That made up for a lot of issues. And number 9 wasn't even the same number 9 the last 3 or 4 years. And having Michael Thomas was that safety valve. As you could see, if you look up any of the Saints specific passing statistics from 2017. Up through last year, up through the time that Thomas and Breeze were both hurt, you look at the number of targets that MT got compared to everybody else. That tells you how much different this offense has been since Breeze started to decline and as Michael Thomas took over. Even if Callaway has a big year, and I agree with you, I think he will. I like Marquez a lot. And Marquez Callaway, Deontay Harris, Traquan Smith, none of those guys are Michael Thomas. And You're asking a quarterback, be it Jameis Winston, who I still think has great potential, or Taysom Hill, who has so many dimensions to an offense. Neither one of those guys are Drew Brees.
Right.
So many question marks about this passing game headed in, and now you're without your best receiver and the most accurate quarterback in NFL history.
I know. And it's funny because, yesterday, Jameis Winston had his best practice. Repeating John Hendricks,
Jake from State Farm.
Yeah, Jake from State Farm, repeating his observations in camp. Today, Taysom Hill had the great practice.
Yeah.
So it's every day. It's Winston's great. Now Hill looked good today. Then it's Winston tomorrow. Then Hill. And I think Nick Underhill put the stats up. And they're damn near identical. I mean, they really are. For a guy, and I'm going to talk about this because this Friday, maybe Saturday morning, I'm not sure which day I'm going to release it yet, my way too early prediction, Final 53 prediction. I always try and do this because I want to do it before the preseason game starts so people can make fun of me later on and go, you got this guy making this team. He retired, I think I had Ryan Glasgow making the team, and I ended up, had to go erase that real quick because he retired on us, and then we'll talk about Patrick Robinson retiring in a second. But
I do the same thing. I did mine 2 weeks ago, my 53 man, and I'll do another probably after the second preseason game. So I do the same thing.
Yeah, I do one after the right around the time of the final preseason game, right before the final cuts. I'll do yet another one, an updated one. But basically, my thing with the quarterbacks is you're looking at 1 and 1A right now. Mm-hmm. And I've said this forever, and you can come back and look at this or any of the other shows from this year. I've said this over and over and over again. I think we're going to see Woodstock. I think we're going to see a lot of Hill and Winston taking turns, not quite as bad as Craig Morton and Roger Staubach, where they were going every other play. Yeah. But I think you're going to see a lot more plays where Hill comes in just to shake up the offense and make it less predictable. Just to generate something, and there'll be plays where Winston may not start. He may start just to throw off the defense. You have to make a defense prepare for 2 different quarterbacks because he feels like I've got 2 pretty much identical passers, but I've got 2 mobile guys, and that can do different things. So it makes that's just one more way to confuse the defense. So I think we're going to see some of that this Saturday night against Baltimore. I don't think we're going to see a game or a preseason where clearly Winston is going to be the starter, or clearly, excuse me, Hill ends up being the starter. I think it's just going to be one of those things where you're going to see both guys come in, and at the end of the day, stats pretty much are going to be what it looks like when you get to play with the first team, what it looks like when you get to play with the second team.
I agree.
But I think in the receiving situation, I think they're still looking at receivers. They're not hyping that because they talk a lot about cornerbacks. But I think at the final cut down, they're going to be looking hard at who gets cut and who they can come to pick up off the waiver wire, just because, again, they don't like to invest a lot in receivers, but getting a veteran guy who's a solid route runner and has some, has good hands and, good teammate, they're going to look for that to come in to back up or replace some of these guys like a Traquan Smith who's always hurt. I think that's what they're looking hard at. But let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about Patrick Robinson retiring. He said he wasn't feeling it anymore, and I get it. 11 years of football, that probably wears you out. There's days I wake up where I'm not feeling it anymore either, but I haven't won the Powerball yet, so I can't walk away. Patrick Robinson retires, saves the Saints about $2 million on the cap. And now they've already been looking for a number 2 corner. C.J. Henderson, the 9th overall pick in the 2020 draft, allegedly is trade bait over there in Jacksonville. So without dumping on poor Patrick Robertson, who was a former number 1 pick back in 2010, how do you two feel? I'll start with you, Bob. How do you feel about Robertson going and the possibility of making a trade for C.J. Henderson? What do you think he is worth?
I'll start with Henderson. And I liked him coming out of the University of Florida, but I thought he was drafted a little bit too high. He didn't have elite shutdown cornerback written all over him like some of the other cornerbacks that we've seen come out. But my first question is, if Jacksonville is truly willing to trade him, why? Because you're talking about a guy that he didn't have a training camp last year because none of these rookies did. He's coming off of his first full off season. He was hurt as a rookie. So you're basically giving up on the 9th overall draft choice without that draft pick having proven anything good or bad. So what's going on in Jacksonville that has the Jaguars willing to give him up? And they're not going to give him up for nothing. I'm not saying that. And it's not a Minnesota Vikings situation where they had to release Jeff Gladney, a terrific player in his own right, because of all kinds of legal issues. If you're going to trade for C.J. Henderson or even look into it, you better do your due diligence, because you need to bring in a high character guy as well as a guy that can play football, especially with the offseason that this franchise has had. I believe that C.J. Henderson, talent-wise, you could probably get him for a day 2 draft pick. I don't think it's going to take a number 1 draft choice. And no, Saints fans, I don't think it's going to take a Michael Thomas reuniting with his college coach, Urban Meyer, to get C.J. Henderson. If you want to reach at something far-fetched, okay, perhaps. But to get C.J. Henderson, it's not going to take a first-round pick, I don't think, and it's not going to take a Michael Thomas. Sean Payton, Mickey Loomis have continuously said that the cornerback position is a spot that they are going to continue to monitor. I have continuously said, for whatever that's worth, that I don't think they've done nearly enough at that position this offseason. So I do think you have to watch C.J. Henderson's film very, very closely. Talk to Urban Meyer, who supposedly has a good relationship with Sean Payton, hence all those Ohio State products, and see what kind of product that you are potentially getting into C.J. Henderson. But talent-wise, he's got to be an upgrade over and I like Paulson Adebo's potential. I really do. But C.J. Henderson at this point is an upgrade over anything that you have, including the hallelujah, dearly departed Patrick Robinson. I don't know why I wasted my time, wasted my breath, and wasted my emotion on having so many arguments with people. Because I was the one that wrote the story for Saints News Network. That Robinson had announced his retirement, and it did come out of nowhere a little bit. It shocked, it surprised many, including Sean Payton when asked about it in his press conference. But P. Rob was ready. He'd had enough. I personally think he was on the roster bubble, even with all the questions at the cornerback position. I think he probably would have made the team. But it was, he was on the fence at best. But I cannot believe that I expended so much energy arguing and debating with fans on social media this afternoon, who were hitting the panic button. Oh my God, what else could go wrong? Patrick Robinson, folks, is not that big a loss for this team. He's not. If he was that big of an answer to your team, then they wouldn't have signed Brian Poole. They wouldn't have signed Prince Amukamara. They wouldn't have brought in Drake Kirkpatrick for a tryout. Adebo, they were going to draft a cornerback one way or another. But they wouldn't have brought in these other veterans if they felt so confident in Patrick Robinson. Point blank, end of story. If Patrick Robinson was playing a heavy amount of your defensive snaps, you were going to be a 500 ball club or less. That's my take on Robinson. I won't beat a dead horse there either. I've made my opinion about him very well known for the last 2.5 years.
Me personally, it just looks and sounds to me like he saw the writing on the wall, and he wasn't going to be able to make the final 53, and he processed it the way he did. That's just what my first instinctual reaction to hearing it today.
Yeah, I'll give you a little sneak peek here of my little piece I wrote, but I didn't even have Robinson making the team this year. I didn't have him making the team last year either. I thought his contract was going to be such that it was going to be hard for him to make the team. It was going to be a lot easier to walk away because you're not getting enough. You really aren't. So let's see, where is it? It's in this.
To be honest, and this is something we'll probably address shortly, but if people are panicking over the loss of P-Rob, you lost a much, much bigger part of the team today in Will Lutz than you did P-Rob.
Well, and yeah, that's a good segue. Let me see if I can find this thing. Okay, here it is. All right, so the guys I had making this team at cornerback were, I had, that's exactly what I wrote here. Marshawn Lattimore, Ken Crawley, Adebo Paulson, Brian Poole, P.J. Williams, Prince Amukamara, thank you. What I miscounted. I'm sorry. No, I got six. Okay, because I got P.J. Williams. Listed as a corner, even though he's really more of a safety.
Right.
And I said, the good news is Lattimore's having an outstanding camp. The bad news is the other guy who's having a great camp is Ken Crawley. So that likely means, barring a trade or pickup after the cut down day, Crawley is your starting corner opposite of Lattimore. As Count Floyd on SCTV used to say, scary stuff, eh, kids? Ask your parents about that joke. So
Bob and Doug McKenzie.
Hey, if I can throw an old joke in there, I'm going to. But yeah, I mean, the reality is the Saints don't have a lot of bodies to throw at the cornerback position. So you're talking about an undrafted free agent possibly having to make the team and step up now because you lost the experience of Robinson, Craig Robertson, and Patrick Robinson. You know, I gotta keep those two separate. But yeah, so you know that's the scary stuff. That you know, Ken Crawley probably is one of your more experienced veteran corners right now in this system, and he is having a good camp. So, you know, if we had to start now, I expect Saturday night you're going to see Lattimore in for a few plays. You're going to see Ken Crawley opposite him. Yeah, Paulson Adebo is having a pretty good camp, but he's a rookie. He's going to make a lot of rookie mistakes.
Yep.
Brian Poole's an inside guy. I think Chauncey Gardner-Johnson really is the guy they're going to have penciled in if Crawley can't play for whatever reason, or if Lattimore is suspended. Yeah. And
again, I've said this before and I'll say it once more. If we get the Ken Crawley from his rookie year, that's not such a bad thing.
Yeah. But the thing about Ken Crawley is he's so inconsistent. When he gets beat, he gets a penalty. You know, so it's like Fred Thomas with a little bit of Brandon Browner thrown in. I mean, that's what it's like. You know, might get a guy who's dependable. He's not going to make a lot of plays, but he's not going to make, you know, not going to really hurt you until the inner Brandon Browner comes out and he grabs somebody because he got beat. You know, so yeah, that's the scary part. So yeah, I was looking up the draft stock of C.J. Henderson. And this is last year, and basically, you know, Henderson they kind of say is a good mirror and match kind of cornerback. Somebody who plays well in man-to-man coverage. You know, very open hips, fluid. Is quick to wrap up and tackle after the catch. He makes mental mistakes, but from time to time, and occasionally loses awareness from zone. He's willing and capable in run support, but needs better control as an open field tackler. Henderson is a fluid cornerback with ball skills and bursts, has CB1 ability as a first rounder. And yet, Jacksonville wants to get rid of him. Why?
Yeah,
I agree.
And again, that'd be my first question. And I do remember watching film on Henderson coming out too, and I am a Gator fan. I admit it. Mm-hmm. One thing that I did notice with him, with CJ, when he does fall a step behind, he gets extreme. He gets panicky. He gets crabby, and he isn't a willing run support guy. And to play for an Urban Meyer defense, you have to ask Marshawn Lattimore. You have to be a willing tackler from the cornerback position. So maybe it's something as simple as that. If it is, I could live with that. If it's something deeper, if it's a locker room thing, if it's a personality thing, then New Orleans, you might want to move on and just develop your third round rookie, who has has some question marks and red flags of his own coming into the league, but looks like a true player. And C.J. Henderson is not the only guy available out there. Xavier Howard, by the way, I told you so, Saints fans. Xavier Howard worked out whatever his issue was with the Miami Dolphins. But that cornerback's a lot like wide receiver. Next week, there might be another big name guy who wants out of wherever he wants, wherever he currently is. So monitor that situation. The Saints, like Sean, you just pointed out, the Saints have made do with an Eli Apple or a Ken Crawley opposite of Marshawn Lattimore in the past. They can cover up for that as long as they get pressure up front and solid play from their linebacking core and safety grouping. But as you both said, I am really looking forward to seeing how well Paulson Adebo plays on Saturday against Baltimore, and to see how they use Gardner Johnson, whether they use him outside, how he holds up out there. Because as I've said to people many, many times, Gardner Johnson played every secondary spot at the University of Florida and played them all pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
He's not your ideal CB1, but he can. And he does have the ability to fill in at number 2 spot. The only concern that I would have is what's Gardner Johnson done best for this defense the last 2 years? Moving around like a joker. So if you have to put him at that number 2 spot, that takes away from what he does best for this defense.
And getting players kicked out of the game because he talks
that too, right?
Yeah. Okay, so here's one other thing you can throw into the mix and why a C.J. Henderson trade would make sense. Speaking of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, both he and C.J. Henderson played together at Florida. So, you get that Ohio State-Florida combo going on in the secondary because you've got, now they're separated by about a decade, but, Malcolm Jenkins and Marshawn Lattimore, both Ohio State products. If you throw in C.J. Henderson and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, too many damn initials.
I know.
Because I almost called him CJB, but Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in there. You got 2 Florida guys, and then poor Marcus Williams playing the franchise tag as the lone Utah Ute. Him and the Utes.
Well, you want to know the interesting thing? Marcus Williams, Utah.
Mm-hmm.
Gardner Johnson, Florida. Hypothetically, if they trade for C.J. Henderson, Florida. Like you said, Jenkins and Lattimore, both Ohio State. All of not all of those guys played for him, but all 3 of those schools, Utah, Florida, Ohio State, schools that Urban Meyer coached.
Yep.
I just find that interesting. It just occurred to me.
The other name I keep hearing thrown out there is, and it's only recently, but Bryce Thompson from Tennessee is somebody that they said, hey, watch him Saturday night and see how he does.
Read my piece on him when they signed him as an undrafted free agent. I like Bryce a lot. And I thought from the start he had a puncher's chance to make this team. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he could do as well.
And they I was going to mention this when I was talking about making fun of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson telling people stuff. They made the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson rule today. Yeah. Taunting. If you're verbally taunting now, they're going to throw a flag. Yeah. And I'm sorry. Do you realize what you hear on that field? The kind of stuff they say to you on that field. It's just, I mean,
somebody get their feelings hurt.
Oh, you know what?
Nut up. Be a man.
I heard, I'm totally immune to your mama jokes because I've heard so many of them. It's like you have to really be creative, and chances are I'm gonna laugh more than I get pissed off.
Right?
Something about my mama, because you got to be pretty damn creative because it's hard to come up with good insults. I mean, it's that hard. So yeah, you really have to come up with something. So I'm curious to see how this holds up because I'm thinking about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in the Chicago Bears game. I don't know what he said, but he yanked that dude's mouthpiece off. That was probably the best thing I saw, and nobody saw it except it was on the field because it's bright orange, for about 2 plays, and that guy stewed on the sideline for 2 possessions before he went after Gardner-Johnson. That was just awesome. All right, Will Lutz. We talked a little bit about this before the show, but Will Lutz had the groin surgery. He is going to miss, I don't know, the first 2 or 3 games, perhaps. I don't know how long this is going to take to recover. And Bob, you had mentioned off the air before we started that, this is possibly something that's like Michael Thomas has carried over from last season. They didn't have surgery on. He thought he could rehab it. Groin surgery is a little bit different than ankle surgery or knee surgery. Chances are most doctors prescribe a treatment of rest and recover more than just going in, unless you have a hernia, more than just going in there and trying to repair a muscle injury. But he had the surgery. We signed Brett. Is it Maher? Is that how you say his last name? Maher in Lafayette. It's
Mar.
Well,
Mar.
no, that's how it is in Lafayette. They've said Mare or Mare on the air. So I'm not sure how you say his name.
I would pronounce it Mar.
I would pronounce it Mar too, but it's not Brett Maher, because I know a Mar, and that's not how they say his name for this kid. It's almost like a Hispanic pronunciation, like Mare or Mare. Or, I don't know. I have to go back and look it up. But here's the interesting thing. Because they changed the rules of the jersey numbers, that you can wear, 1 to 19. It's not just limited to specialists and quarterbacks and receivers. All those numbers are taken except for 2 numbers, 8 and 9. And I'll be damned if a kicker is going to wear 8 or 9. The last kicker I can remember wearing number 9 was Happy Feller from the Saints back in the 70s. And only one player has ever worn 8 for this franchise. So
I can't see them allowing number 9 to be used.
no,
I fully expect that number to be retired pretty damn soon.
Well,
and it would be.
Okay, Chad is saying Maher.
That's too easy.
Yeah. So here we are. We've lost Lutz, and some people are just insane. It's like, I hate quoting Bobby Hebert, but it's always, what have you done for me lately? He must say that 1,000 times in a broadcast. Yeah, Bobby Hebert just morphed into Buddy D in that pronunciation there, but they only remember what Lutz did once he got injured and was missing at least one kick a game. Not that he has been kicking 87 to 90% and has been nearly automatic on long field goals. They forget about that part. So that's a significant loss, especially for an offense where you're concerned that, hey, you may not be able to have a good passing game, that if you can't run the ball in, you got to have a good kicker. And have we all forgotten about the Shane Graham years, the little shit Martin Gramatica, Alinda Mare? Now I do not pronounce his name. Yeah, I used to always say about Martin Gramatica, the little shit, because he would act like, "Hey, I kicked touchdown." No, you kicked the extra point. I mean, little kid. He and his stupid brother blew out his knee celebrating a field goal for the Cardinals. Yep. I remember that. That was awesome. But you had all these kickers. We must have gone through a half dozen to a dozen kickers before we got Will Lutz. People were pissed that we let Dustin Hopkins go, and he was kicked. Now I think he's still kicking for the Washington football team, but he's still
Redskins.
Redskins. Thank you. I think he's still kicking for them. And meanwhile, we kept the other guy who didn't even last a full season.
Yeah.
This is what I know about Maher. Man, I want to say something, but I'm not gonna.
Mother Maher? Is that what
I was thinking Maher right down the middle.
There we go.
But before I get our show booted forever, I'll stop. I won't go on. I know he has a strong leg, but I also know he has questionable accuracy. Which is why he's been cut a couple of times. Now, just because a kicker gets cut a couple of times does not mean that that the Saints are inheriting garbage. Will Lutz got cut a couple of times. He was not going to make the Baltimore Ravens team, and was probably going to bounce around for a few teams before Sean Payton's good friend John Harbaugh called him up and said, "Hey, Sean, you might want to take a look at this guy."
Mm-hmm.
That's how Will Lutz ended up in New Orleans. But we also know that Sean Payton has absolutely zero tolerance for kicking miscues. So Maher is going to be on a very short leash. And it wouldn't surprise me if he missed a field goal or two during the preseason if Sean brought in 2 or 3 more kickers to audition, because you guys, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you know what Monday's going to be like at Saints camp if he misses an extra point or a field goal. It's kicking tryout day where you can have about a dozen kickers coming in. Yeah, it's not going to be fun. So
no.
Because like you said, a minute ago, Sean, losing Lutz is such an underrated loss. I mean, even with his struggles late last season, when people were speculating and wondering out loud whether he was hurt or not, and the team and Lutz neither confirmed or denied these rumors. And Lutz got married this offseason, but he was conspicuously absent also during a lot of the offseason workouts, which does make you wonder if he was trying to rehab something. And now we hear this. But Lutz was Mr. When the Saints got to the opponent's 40-yard line, you can all but book him for at least 3 points. That's a big loss now.
Yeah, it is.
You're breaking in a new holder as well, because Thomas Morstead was the holder for the last however many years.
Absolutely.
This special teams unit faces a lot of question marks that people aren't necessarily talking about.
Absolutely. I mean, you're looking at a lot of challenges on this team. New quarterback, new receivers, new kicking game, new outside cornerback. Yeah, we got Quan Alexander and we've got Demario Davis back, but defensive tackle. That's going to be an interesting battle to watch. I mean, I think Dalton probably has the inside track of being the starter alongside Shai Tuttle right now until Onyemata comes back, but no Onyemata for 6 weeks. Pass rush seems to be the strength of this team. Peyton Turner, even though he's a rookie, when they put the pads on, he became a different player.
Yeah, he did.
And for a good way. Marcus Davenport seems to be having a great camp, but like Andres Pete, you got to watch out for the injuries. And then even Noah Spence. There's a guy that you and I used to talk about a lot back when he was a rookie, a draft prospect. He had a blown Achilles tendon last year, I believe, and knee injury the year before. I mean, he really has struggled to stay on the field. But when he stayed on the field, this training camp, he's sacking people. He's getting to the quarterback. They're going to play him as a linebacker, not as a defensive end, which makes sense because we've got Redwood Forest now for defensive ends. Cam Jordan at 6'4" is the midget.
Yeah.
He said the other day that if we don't lead the league in batted balls, I don't know what it's going to take. I mean, because Turner's 6'7", Davenport 6'6". I think 6'7" is also the kid we got from Kansas City.
Passanio,
Yeah. I think he's a 6'7" guy. I mean, you've got giants out there, and with huge wingspans, not just physically tall, big arms. So they said it's going to be hard to set the edge against these guys because they can reach around and grab you, and they're going to free up a lot of blocking for Demario Davis and Quan Alexander to flow to the ball and make contact. So that's something to watch. What's this? Now Peyton's one first got hurt. Here we go. That's my son commenting here. Yeah, Peyton Turner wasn't at practice. We don't know what the status is. Andres Pete wasn't at practice either. We'll see. I mean, these kind of things happen in training camp, But I'm not worried about this. Oh yeah, and Granderson, I forgot about him. He's 6'5", so he's taller too. So I'm not worried about the pass rushers. I'm worried about the run stuffers. How well we're going to be able to play the run. Throw some of these other stuff. Ian Book, another guy to watch this Saturday night. The we might as well play the Notre Dame theme song while I'm talking about this man. I remember, including my son, losing his shit over the fact that we drafted Ian Book in the 4th round. I remember quite a few people pissed off about that. Somebody who's wearing a wife beater T-shirt was mad, and somebody who just raised their hand was mad. Am I wrong?
This is not a wife beater. This is a promotional tool.
I got you.
It's just low cut.
Oh, is that what they're calling it now? Is that what they're calling it? Low cut? Okay. So, Sean, I know
Yes.
you haven't been following very much in because you're up in, redneck country up there. And look, I'm insulting everything now. No, because you're up there in Shreveport in that area.
I'm on the other side of the state from Shreveport, brother.
Wait, are you? I thought you were in West Monroe.
I'm in Monroe, which is about a little hour and some change from Vicksburg.
Okay.
I'm 2 hours away from Shreveport.
I got
So
you.
that's on the eastern side of the state.
Yes.
Yeah.
For some reason, I've always thought you were on the western side.
I did
No,
too.
northeast.
See,
I'm in the same town that ULM is.
Yeah. See, good. Yeah, that's true. Why? And that's why you would like Tech, because Ruston's right there. I don't know what I was thinking. You know what I was, because we were talking about going to Dallas one time. I said, well, hell, I can go visit Sean while we're on our way to Dallas, because, take 49 up to Shreveport and I'll just go outside of Shreveport and see Sean. No, I would not. I would not do that. That would not work. So, I know geography. I can tell you where, most of the countries in Africa are and name them. But I do not know where Monroe is. That's terrible.
I am 30 miles, give or take, east of Ruston, where Tech is. I am, like I say, a little over an hour west of Vicksburg.
Donald's throwing about 1,000 questions in here, and I'm going to try and answer as many of them as I can. I did not know that, but my question to you is, what do you think of Ian Book based on what you've heard out of training camp so far?
Well, I hear the same thing about him, maybe not to the extent as the other two, but from what I've heard, he's having a really good camp and looks like he may have actually been worth a 4th round pick. I'm anxious to see what he does on the field in the preseason, though.
The comments I heard, and I'm getting ready to ask Bob the same question, but the comments I've heard is he is light years ahead of Garrett Grayson, who we spent a higher draft pick on. That he has been a lot of fun. He's a playmaker, and he has shown surprising accuracy. Now, of course, his head's swimming. He's got to learn all this verbiage and everything else, but he is. You're going to hear this about 1,000 times until we settle on a quarterback. Very Breeze-like in his approach to the game, and I guess, Bob, that's why I'm going to go with you. Do you see him as a Breeze-like quarterback, or maybe just a Breeze, maybe Taysom Hill hybrid kind of quarterback?
Physically wise, or physically speaking, I should say, I think the comparisons to Breeze are pretty accurate. Now, nobody is calling him Drew Brees here, or the next Drew Brees, or Breeze-like, because that's like a Gulf of Mexico size hole to fill.
Right.
But yeah, if you'll excuse the expression, the pun, and I made it a couple times earlier today too. The book on Ian coming out of Notre Dame was that he was a little bit on the smaller side, had an average arm, questionable deep ball strength, but good intelligence, good physical ability. He can make plays with his legs when a play breaks down, and excellent ability to digest a playbook. Everything that we're hearing out of camp, And my John Hendricks has been my eyes and ears, especially since I've been away for the last 10 days. I'd like Mike to make that screen call. But yeah, Ian Book is doing a fantastic job for a rookie, digesting the playbook so far. And I am interested to see how he's going to do this preseason, like Sean said. But we shouldn't expect to see him get a lot of reps either, because this team has a bona fide quarterback battle between two guys. And if Ian Book factors in, gets significant playing time this season for the New Orleans Saints, that means the season went south in a hurry.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
But is he the future of the team at quarterback? It's hard to tell, and you're not going to pin that on a 4th-round draft pick rookie. But if Sean Payton likes what he sees from him, he could very much be a factor for the starting job in 2022. And I saw that comment.
I figured you'd like it. My son's quoting Airplane, so I got to respond with one.
But no, I'm not surprised to hear that Ian Book is making plays with his legs and he's digesting the playbook reasonably well for a rookie. I am anxious to see what he's going to be able to do. I wanted them to go just like Sean did. I wanted them to go another direction. Certainly if they went for a quarterback, I wanted them to do it earlier. And I thought they could have gone another direction to fill another hole on the roster with their 4th-round pick. But Ian Book was not a bad selection for value-wise at that particular pick.
Well, and that's how I felt. I felt he was probably a good backup, cheap, young backup, that you can probably win a few games with him as a starter if you had to in a pinch. I never thought of him as being a long-term answer as a starter. Yeah. But you need a Chase Daniel, maybe even Nick Foles like kind of guy. And if you can get Nick Foles, will probably be his ceiling at this point. And I'm looking forward just to watching him. I liked Ryan Griffin when we had him.
Me too.
A few years ago. And, he's done a good job as a backup in Tampa. He'll never get the starting job, but, he is a good, solid backup who knows the game. You can do most of your offense with him. So I'm really curious to watch him play and see what it's like. I know what I'm going to see out of Taysom. I know what I'm going to see out of Jameis Winston. And I don't think the sample size we're going to see of these preseason games is going to win the starting job for one player or another. I think that they're looking at the entire picture and what they can do offensively with both quarterbacks. So at this point, it's about watching the young kids play. Like I said, Donald's asking about 1,000 questions. One of his questions was, what do you think about Juwan Jameson playing as tight end? He's gotten 4 TDs in practice unofficially. Right. Do you think he has a future as maybe that 3rd tight end? Because they don't have one. They really don't, because Ethan Wolf has been hurt. They just signed Doug Peterson's kid, speaking of Northeast and Northwestern. They signed Doug Peterson's kid, Josh Peterson, as a tight end. They kicked the tires on the ex-Bears tight end, Demarius. I can't think of his last name right now, but Harris. Yeah. He's kind of an overgrown receiver as well. Yeah. So, they're not satisfied with this. And Nick Vannett has missed a couple of practices because of little nagging injuries, nothing serious. So what do you think about Juwan Jameson? Is this the new Dan Arnold? Is this somebody they're going to try maybe as a pass-catching tight end to kind of balance out with Adam Trautman?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely their plan. And they liked Juwan Johnson a lot last year. Remember, he made the roster, the active roster, as an undrafted rookie, without the benefit of training camp or OTAs. And he got in some action. He only caught 4 passes for, I think, 38 or 39 yards. But they really liked his blocking ability. Because of that, he got an increased snap count as the season went along. They moved him. They tried him out as tight end, for some workouts during OTAs. They like what they saw. So they actually, I believe on the team's website, they actually changed his position listing from wide receiver to tight end coming into training camp. And he has played extremely well. He's a little bit light to be an every down tight end, especially an inline blocker. But he does have good fundamental blocking ability. He has great upper body strength. And I think he has a legitimate future at the position because he has nice hands. He runs precise routes. At least he did as a receiver. Now that route tree is going to change a little bit as a tight end. So there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve there that people don't realize. But if the final 53 was made today, Juwan Johnson is going into the regular season as a tight end, as the one of your tight ends on this 53-man roster.
Again, I'm going to cheat a little bit, but my final 53 prediction, I have 4 tight ends on this team. 4 tight ends making this team because I've got Juwan Jameson making the team as a tight end, but I've got a blocking tight end thrown in there. I think I still have Garrett Griffin in there. But I've got Trotman, Vanette, Jameson, and Griffin, as your 4 tight ends. So because Griffin can kind of play your H back. Yeah. Because I only have 4 backs. I only have 4 running backs making the team, or 4 backs making the team. The 3 running backs and the 1 fullback. I didn't go 5. I went heavy on receiver and heavy on tight end. So we'll see. I mean, like I said, it'll change.
And like you, I went heavy on receiver in my original projection, and I see myself doing it. I think they're going in with 6 receivers, and are probably going to try to keep another 2 to 3 on the practice squad if they can get away with it. Yeah. And given the question marks that this team has at receiver right now, I think you have to go in with 6 receivers because you're throwing the shotgun approach. If you spray pellets to something, you're going to hit. If you spray pellets all over the place, you're going to hit with something. And I think that's kind of their philosophy and their outlook at wide receiver as we stand currently anyway.
Yeah. I mean, because, I did not keep Tommy Lee Lewis on the roster. I mean, he's a camp body. But he's a guy that can always call back when they have injuries. That's why you don't make a roster spot for him right now. He's a guy you can always come back to. I got Chris Hogan making the team. Oh, yeah. But I kind of have, depending on how these other guys play out, I kind of have Hogan as being like the Austin Carr from the standpoint of he's inactive a lot of games. And fans are like, why the hell is he inactive? Because they know they can always go back to him. True. If they need him. But he's not the guy they're going to want out there. They're going to want these other guys to get a shot. Let's see what we can do. We can always go back to Hogan and activate him and have him play in the game. We know he's the guy who's going to get a little separation, make a couple catches in the game, just to help you move the chain. He's not going to be a guy that he's going to run clear out patterns. He's not going to be the guy that's going to run the X, the Y, and the Z receiving positions. He's really your slot guy that we can throw 1 or 2 passes a game to. So it's just how I have look at it. You guys will see it all on Friday. I'm gonna try and release it on Friday. It depends on how the rest of this work week pans out. So real quick, I know Sean had to drop off. He warned us ahead of time he probably would. But what else do you want to look for on Saturday night when you're watching this game?
I hate to harp on the receiver position, but I have said from the start that I really like both K'Wan Baker and Jalen McCleskey's chances to make this active roster. And I especially like both of their chances now that Michael Thomas is out. And you're looking for more receivers to step up. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how those guys operate within this offense. And we keep hearing, and again, John Hendricks has been my eyes and ears at camp. We keep hearing and how much improved Zach Bond is playing at the linebacker position. And we already had high expectations for Pete Werner because of his high football IQ. So again, what Demario Davis is going to give you at the linebacker position. I would be shocked to see Quan Alexander suit up at all on Saturday. So I want to see what Zach Vaughn and Pete Werner give us at linebacker. I had Andrew Dowell making the team as taking the last linebacker spot, and since then he has been having one great practice, one right after another. So I'm interested to see how that translates to the preseason game, competitions themselves. And obviously, just like receiver, you hate to keep talking about the cornerback position, but we want to see. They just added Prince Amukamara. Is he going to see the field? How's Brian Poole going to look? How's Paulson Adebo going to look? Those are big questions that this team is going to have to answer, as well as the defensive tackle spot, like you mentioned. We know what Shai Tuttle is going to give us. But is Jalen Dalton, Josiah Bronson, and Malcolm Roach going to continue the momentum that we hear that they have been starting at practice as well? Because there's not a lot of physicality in training camps these days. You really don't get to see how your guys perform in the trenches until you suit up against other teams. That's when you look to see what backup offensive linemen are going to start to separate themselves from the back. Your starting five is set. But what backup linemen are going to start to separate themselves? How are your defensive tackles going to perform? Those kind of things are going to be what I'm watching on Saturday, as well as obviously how the quarterbacks run the offense.
Right. Well, one of the guys that we were just talking about when we were talking about depth, that guy Chase. I was just going to pull up his name. Not Chase Hansen. I'm sorry. He's defensive tackle. Christian Ringo. That's who. Ringo. That's somebody else, who's having a great camp, but he's in a battle with Malcolm Roach for that backup defensive tackle. You're only talking about 8 guys, that maybe 9 that they keep on a defensive line. And if we go heavy on defensive end, because you can kick somebody like Davenport inside, you can maybe kick Peyton Turner inside. So where does, and then with Noah Spence, is he an outside linebacker? Is he a defensive end? Where do the defensive tackles fit in? Yes, you're going to have David Onyemata out for 6 weeks, but there's a big battle in that for that 3 technique guy.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what I want to watch Christian Ringo as well and see how he does. The funny thing is everybody's kind of down on Pete Werner's drafting, but the thing I saw the other day, I think it was John Hendricks. I don't remember if it was him or Nick Underhill. It might have even been Jeff Duncan, saying Werner's the kind of guy that, is going to have a solid career, good 10-year career. You can see it out there, that he's a smart, instinctive player. So that's going to be somebody to watch as well. Andrew Dodell, I'm interested in as well, too, because, there isn't a whole lot of middle linebackers on this team. It's a lot of outside guys. So, yeah, there's a lot to watch in that second half. Ignore the score. Ignore what happens in the game. People shouldn't get pissed off if the Saints offense isn't scoring, in the first half. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
And I was just going to say that, folks pay literally zero attention to the score. In fact, put duct tape on the bottom or the top of your TV screen. Watch the individual matchups, the individual players that Alan and I just mentioned, or players that you yourself are interested in seeing. How are they performing in their individual match? Focus on that when you're watching the game, not what the final score or any scoring drives ultimately end up in, because I guarantee you that's what the coaching staff is watching too.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing that you have to remember is they're going to run plays that they know isn't going to work. They know that, running the fullback up the gut on fourth and 3. They know that's probably going to get stuffed, but they want to see, when they break down the film, how did the center guard block on that play? Did they blow him out? Who broke down on that play? Why didn't we get in the end zone? That's what they're watching. They're not paying attention whether or not they're going to score because they're not trying to win. They'd like to win, but they're not trying to win. So, as Mike Detillier, not Mike Detillier, as Buddy D used to say, preseason is an illusion.
Oh, yeah.
And before you crown somebody the starting quarterback based off a preseason game, keep in mind in 1997, in the first preseason game of the Mike Ditka era, Heath Schuler was almost perfect on the opening drive against the Tennessee Titans. And we know how that worked out.
Not so good.
Yeah, not so good. So yeah, it don't crown somebody based off of a preseason game. It doesn't matter. Bob, I know Sean had to go. We kind of went almost a half hour over. What else are you working on? I know you just got back from your honeymoon.
Yeah.
What else are you working on this week? I have seen a couple things come out.
I'm trying my darndest to put together, and my head's all over the place on it. Trying to put together a Michael Thomas piece on why I don't think the Saints will or should trade him. And that'll be for release sometime mid to late morning tomorrow. And then after that, I'm going to start taking a look at what we should be watching for, and what the coaches will likely be watching in this Saturday Baltimore Ravens preseason game. Exactly the kind of thing that you and I were just talking, individual matchups, or watching to see how a specific player or specific unit performs on Saturday rather than the final score. So it's just those kind of things. It does feel good to write about actual football again. Rather than just rumors, that is for sure.
Well, it is fun. It's a lot more fun. And guys, until Patrick Robinson announces retirement, the picture I posted on a lot of the Saints sites on social media tonight are the two Gladys Kravitz. And if you don't know who that is, that's not Lenny Kravitz's wife. Gladys Kravitz from Bewitched. Every time she saw Samantha do some magic, she was the only one who ever saw it. That was going to be the original picture for this show, because that's kind of how Saints fans have been reacting on social media to every story, every injury report, just like, we're doomed. Relax. Not to quote Aaron Rodgers, it's only preseason, a glorified practice. We're only talking about practice, not the real game, Just enjoy Saints football Saturday night. Don't stress out about anything that you see except for injuries. You can stress out about that. Yeah. That's the only thing we're going to worry about is injuries. Other than that, it doesn't matter what happens out there. Watch your individual plays and individual players. Every year we see somebody, it seems like, become a star in the preseason and really help this team out in the long run. Kyrie Robinson, Chris Ivory are two of the big names that come to mind. Marcus Colston made his move in the preseason. Michael Thomas, I'll be honest with you, that's when I noticed that man was in that first preseason game, when the way he was catching those passes. That's the kind of stuff you really should get out of preseason. Who looked really, really impressive that you didn't expect to look impressive? That's the kind of stuff you should watch in the game. But don't crown anybody. Don't put them in the Saints Hall of Fame yet, much less the NFL Hall of Fame off of a preseason game. Thank you guys for joining us. And next week we get to talk about an actual game and break that down. I can't wait.
The longest off season in history of off seasons is now almost over.
I'm telling you. And we'll talk about that game and what else we heard in the league and what other drama erupts between now and then. In the meantime, thank you all. Good night, everybody.